In this video, I'm going to talk about how to turn around a struggling business. When you need to turn around a struggling business, time is of the essence. And this is something I share from personal experience. Early on in my career, I turned around a struggling business from hemorrhaging money to becoming profitable every single month within about a year and a half. And then I had to do the same for myself in my own business a few years ago. And I'm going to share a little bit about what I learned from both of those experiences. So here's some of what I'm going to cover. First, I'm going to talk about short-term strategies so you can get to more cash flow quickly, because that cash flow is going to help you invest into some of the longer-term strategies that I'm going to share with you. I'm going to talk about how to establish a quick marketing plan, and I'm going to cover why cutting costs can be a really important and quick strategy to turn around your situation. I'm going to get into these longer-term strategies about how to use branding to attract inbound business. And then how to increase your customer retention, which is a really important long-term indicator as well. Finally, I'm going to get into ways that you can grow your audience so that you can increase new business. So like I said, a mix of short-term and long-term strategies. The short-term strategies are to help make a difference quickly so you don't go out of business. And then the long-term strategies we're putting in place to make sure that you never get into the situation of being struggling again. So first, let's talk about ways to increase your cash flow quickly. One of the best things you can do is go to your established loyal clients, the people who already love you, know you, like you, trust you, and introduce a new offering that meets a new need and gets them to pay in full upfront for this new offering. Another thing you can do is offer some sort of recurring program that solves an ongoing need that they have. Right now, if you don't have monthly recurring revenues in your business, that could be a big reason why you're struggling. Now, I'm not going to get deep into monthly recurring revenue in this video, but you can check out up here. I have an entire video, actually several videos, about monthly recurring revenues and how to drive them. One of my big philosophies when it comes to creating new revenues quickly is sell it first, figure it out later. That means come up with an idea, get it down on paper, and go out and generate cash from it. Generate revenues, and then maybe create a launch date that's a little bit into the future. So for example, I remember one time I was really struggling for cash. And so what I did was I designed a brand new virtual program. And that program was $997. I went to all of my clients and I offered the program. I sold it to several of them. I ran several webinars, sold it there too, and I generated about $30,000 within a few weeks. But I didn't deliver it until I think it was April 1st. So I spent February and March selling the program and didn't offer the delivery date until April 1st. That gave me the money that I needed to take care of my situation and also to create the program that I had just sold. Let's talk about some low-hanging fruit and some ways to generate more revenues quickly. One of those is what my mentor, my former mentor, Mark LeBlanc, calls a storm starter strategy. A storm starter strategy means picking up the phone or maybe texting, but definitely not emailing, and calling up all your past clients and telling them that you're creating something new and you'd love to have a conversation about it. That way you can introduce this new product or service that you're creating to people who've already had great experiences with you. Now, obviously, don't call up that client that stormed out of your office that one time. Just call up the ones that know you, like you, trust you, and would be open to something new that you're delivering. Now, one thing to know about turning around a struggling business quickly is that often cutting costs can be way faster than generating new sales, especially if you've spent years building up a lot of ongoing monthly recurring subscription charges that you're not really taking full advantage of. I do an audit of my payments every single year. I do a big audit of everything, and every quarter I do an update. I go through our monthly recurring charges and make sure that we're taking full advantage of everything that we're paying for. So cutting your costs, maybe even having to let go of an individual, someone who's not really fully performing or someone who's not delivering or participating or contributing at the highest level. I know it's hard. A couple of years ago, I lost 3 employees all at the same time. And quite honestly, not all of them because I wanted to. And I was kind of devastated. I reached the end of that year thinking, how did this happen? How did I lose all these people so quickly? And I was really upset. But it turned out the next year was my most profitable year in a long time. Why? Because my overhead came down. But I had been so attached to those people that I hadn't really wanted to let them go. So when some of them left on their own, it was actually a blessing, even though I didn't really know it at the time. If this video is speaking to you, and if this is something that's going to help you, then feel free, please, to subscribe to my channel so you get notified about my future videos. And if you know somebody who's struggling in business, please share this video with them so that you can give them strategies to turn it around. Now let's talk a little bit about how to cut costs while maximizing profits. The best way for me to explain this is with an example, with a case study. I worked with an accounting client a few years ago, and she was stuck. She had a wonderful business. She had several employees. She had lots and lots and lots of clients, but she just didn't seem to be very profitable. So I did something called what I call a Pareto analysis. Now, you may have heard of something called the Pareto principle. It's pretty common. A lot of people know about it. It's also known as the 80-20 rule. The Pareto principle or 80-20 rule is that usually 20% of inputs generate 80% of outcomes. So for example, 20% of clients often generate 80% of your profits, or 20% of computer bugs cause 80% of glitches and problems. 20% of seeds that you plant in the soil generate about 80% of the crops that come to fruition. So this 80-20 rule basically says that if you can eliminate, or at least what I interpret it is, if you can eliminate the 80% that isn't really performing and focus your effort on that 20%, you can generate much bigger outcomes. So a Pareto analysis is basically applying this to business. So what I had her do was to export a list of all of her clients, how much revenue they generated, and how much time they took on her team. In other words, because her team was charging by the hour, they had a tally of how many hours each client was using. And what we found was that just like you would expect, about 20% of the clients were generating about 80% of the profits, and there was this 80% of the clients that were sucking up most of their team's time and energy. In other words, they had all of these clients that weren't really that profitable, that weren't generating all that much revenue, but that were taking up a lot of time. So what we did was we took the highest, most profitable clients and we invited them to go on retainer. And so that retainer was a flat price point every month that they knew that they would always pay. And that price point was building in more profitability for the accounting firm. Then she went to the companies that weren't profitable, but that were eating up a whole lot of time and said, listen, your account just isn't very profitable for us. And we either need to get you onto a retainer that is working for us or to let you go. Well, several of the clients came up to that level of retainer and several of the clients left. And then the rest of the clients, they basically just let them go. All the little itty bitty clients that were $200 a year or $500 a year, they just said, hey, listen, we're reorganizing and we've got to let you go. Your business no longer fits with us, or you can come on to one of these 3 retainers that we created. So that way they were able to stop being unprofitable, get rid of the clients that were stealing or let's say sucking up a lot of the time and energy and focus their attention on that. Now at this point, maybe 30% of clients and really helping those clients to grow. Now we're about, 8 or 10 years later, and her business has really flourished. She's grown several times over, added more staff, and still maintains that same retainer pricing model. Now let's talk about some longer term strategies. now that we've talked about ways that you can quickly cut costs, increase profits, and generate more revenues, the longer term strategies are really built around your long-term vision and values. So one of the best places to invest your time and effort for a long-term result is in your brand. By the way, I have a lot of videos on branding. You might want to check out my branding playlist. But I refer to a brand as, it's like planting a butterfly garden, right? Instead of going around chasing butterflies with a butterfly net and expending a lot of energy to catch clients one at a time, a great brand is like planting a butterfly garden and letting the butterflies come to you. You don't have to expend all that energy running around. Instead, you invested in nurturing and cultivating your garden. So what does that mean? That means spending some time really connecting to your mission, really connecting to your ideal clients and the people you really want to work with, really connecting to your message and the message that's really going to resonate with those ideal clients and that really represents your true mission. A great butterfly garden or brand is one that inspires people, that creates credibility and trust, and attracts people that are of a higher caliber, that are more likely to become partners with you rather than just customers. In order to execute a great personal brand, you might need to create new visuals, get new colors, get a new logo, create new copy. Now, this is a project that a lot of people try to do in a month or 2 months. And I'm a big believer that to do a brand properly can take about a year to really get the deep inner parts of the brand and then to create a suite of materials like a website and brochures that really reflect the heart and soul of a brand. Another longer term strategy is really increasing your customer satisfaction and retention. It's longer term because it can take time to really dig into what people want, need, what their complaints are, what their suggestions are, and then to implement something that addresses those problems and requests. So I recommend customer surveys or something that basically allows clients to give feedback to you. We basically tripled, maybe quadrupled our customer retention over the past few years. And we did that by, for a while, after every single month, we would ask every single client on a scale of 1 to 9, how likely would you be to refer us to your best friend? And for a while there, we got 6s and 7s. And by the way, anything less than a 9 is unacceptable. And we did that every single month until we got to consistent 9s across the board. And by the time we got to 9s across the board, we started to retain about 80% of our clients into a year-long, very high price point by some standards, high touch program. So I'm a big believer in customer retention through conversation, through surveys, and through changing and shaping your offerings to meet your clients' needs. And another way to improve customer satisfaction is to offer things that they didn't expect. I call it surprise and delight. Every once in a while, pretty often actually, I'll throw something new in that nobody expected and that they don't have to pay for. It's often something that doesn't cost me a lot of money, but just the fact that I went through the trouble to design this new thing and to gift it to them, it makes people feel honored and served at a higher level. If you found this interesting, then know that there is so much more we can do to turn around a struggling business. And where I recommend you start, if you want to connect even further, is to go to superstarbusinessassessment.com. This is my 3-part business assessment that I use with my own clients to identify where they can focus their time and effort and attention to create and to achieve big outcomes in short amounts of time. Check it out, and once you've done it, you can feel free to set up a discovery call with me to review the results. You can do that at superstardiscoverycall.com. Enjoy.